G'day listeners, welcome to Barkarati, the Sailing Podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors. But of course I have to share the microphone with just one of my idiot mates. Let's bring him in.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Boyce.
Yes, I was wondering what the line was this week.
I don't know how to do it anymore.
Yeah, no, you've done it well. You've done it well. By the way, you look good. The listeners, of course, can't see this. You've had a haircut. It's looking fine. Mate, I reckon, like most people your age are receding, and I admit I'm one of those. Yourself, though, I reckon your eyebrows and like your forehead, they're getting closer together.
No, mate. No. But the ginger...
Plenty of red hair down the shower drain?
Yeah, no, she's...
Now, we're not talking about just with a waterproof shaver and all, but brushing a few out of the locks these days.
Of course, mate. Of course, it's gonna go. Yeah. It's gonna go. I can't be naturally beautiful for the whole of my life. It's just not fair for everyone else.
Well, fair enough. I'll tell you how to put everyone off. Is I'm looking at the bottom of our discussion page on Slack, which we use, and there's a line there. Do you care to tell the listeners?
Well, that joke I sent.
Yeah.
that one might be a bit inappropriate.
Or shall we save it till the end of the show?
Yeah, we just tell parents to turn their kids away before we tell them.
All right. Yeah. So let's save it till the end of the show. So parents, make sure your kids do not listen. Yeah. By the end of the show.
Yeah. Hey, the other one is the listener of the week is going to be a cracker this week. That banter that's going on at the moment.
Where from?
Well, Harkin and Ronston. We've been copied in a bit of banter going on. Yeah. So yes. So
fair enough.
We'll get that going on.
Yeah.
I think they just do it so we mention their brand all the time. What about you, Bice? How's the Bice Commodore world? Are you good? Everything great?
Well, we're rolling into AGM season, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
No one knows what's going to happen, specifically with the CYC SA. The AGM is coming up in 2 weeks' time, of which the first order of business is to elect the flag officers for next year. So who knows what's going to happen? Who knows?
Look. I've got bad news for you, but no one driving a Defender's ever made it to Commodore.
Well, that is absolutely fair enough, because there's not enough oil pads.
Yeah, that's right.
In Commodore's position.
That's right.
Put it that way.
Yeah. Cool. All right, shall we get our guest in? Because
we shall.
He's sitting there just...
Mate, we've got a cracker this week.
Yeah.
An absolute cracker. I've kind of seen this guy blossom, to tell you the honest truth, over the years into someone who is well known, someone who is going to be even more well known, and someone who's got a very bright, not only future but like longevity in the sport, is what I believe.
Yeah.
A good bloke, good yachty. Good guy to have a beer with, have a chat with, and is kind of married into the royalty. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's even better is that, from a demographics perspective, he covers off the Australian, the Poms, and the French.
Well, we mentioned it last week, right?
Yeah,
he's got not as many flags over his shoulder as Phil Robertson, but he's
close.
Got quite a few.
All right. So our guest this week has done a few Volvos, including winning it on the Dongfeng team. Won the, winning skipper of the Ocean Race Europe on Mirapuri. Did a Jules Verne attempt, although I don't think he actually left the dock. A whole bunch of other stuff, and we'll be going around the world just one more time on the 11th hour, I reckon. So welcome to our show, Jack Boutell. How are you, bud?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the intro. Very kind, and nice to be with you guys.
It's awesome to have you, mate.
So let's set the scene, Jack. You're an Aussie. You're living in France, spent a lot of time in the UK, and now sailing with the US team?
Yeah.
So correct?
Trying to go off international as much as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
But born and raised in Australia on the Gold Coast, and I moved to the UK with my family when I was 15. And, it seemed a good idea at the time. When we got there, not so much. It was pretty difficult, sort of 6 months to a year to sort of get settled in, but eventually sort of got there. And then when I was 17, my parents moved back to Australia with my sister, and I decided to stay in the UK to pursue sailing. And that was sort of, I think that decision was sort of where, my career, I guess, started, at least for me anyway, in sailing, and sort of spent the next, I guess, 5, 6, 7 years in the UK. Or I say UK very loosely. I had, rented a room there occasionally and had some stuff stored in a mate's attic. The rest of the time was sort of couch surfing, traveling, just going wherever sailing or work was. And then since sort of 2016, 17, I've been full-time based in France. So that was slightly due to the couple of years I did in the Figaro circuit. Ended up spending quite a bit of time in France anyway. And then for the last Dongfeng campaign, it was based in Lorient. So it was sort of the logical move to be down here. And following on from that, it's sort of just been a good place to be based.
Bit of an unusual move, the Aussie to UK move. You don't hear of that too often. And then
definitely not the right way.
But then your parents obviously didn't go that well. They've moved straight back.
Yeah, it was a few things. Like, they were enjoying it, but I have a younger sister that at the time really wasn't getting on in the UK. So my parents sort of made the call to go back to Oz to make it easier for her. And it was a bit of a tough call for me to stay in the UK, but for me at the time, that was the place to be, to sort of pursue offshore sailing, and especially short-handed sailing. And I think that decision really made a lot of things happen. So it was a good place to start, I think.
So where did it start though? Like,
where's the passion?
On the Gold Coast, like Opties or surfing, or what was it?
Yeah, so it actually started at school. I went to TSS on the Gold Coast, the Southport school, and the summer sport was sailing or rowing, and basically rowing was 6 a.m. wake up, 6 a.m. on the boat rather, and sailing was after school. So for me, it was a pretty easy call, and started about 13 years old, maybe something like that, and basically it was first time out in. I pretty much spent, it was a pretty amazing setup, because at the bottom of the school was the school sailing club and on the river, and could pretty much roll out of class down to the boat, be on the water within 5-10 minutes. It's Gold Coast, super hot, so you just roll in basically in boardies and a t-shirt, and it was pretty insane. I was sailing every day basically from then on. So
what did you say? Cool. You started at 13 into sailing?
Yeah, started sailing at 13.
Right.
In what did we have? There was Vagabonds, Corsairs, Laser Picos, and then sort of I think about 6 or 8 months down the track, I sort of kept. I remember a guy turned up at school with a 29er, and I just was like, "That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen." And he was ripping around on the trapeze with the spinnaker up, and I was like, "There's no future in any other boat than a skiff." And all my attention went to skiffs and 18-foot skiffs, and I was sort of hankering Dad to buy a 29er, but the budget wasn't going to happen. So in the end, we managed to get our hands on a MG14, a Manly Graduate 14, which is a pretty well-known boat in Australia, but probably not at all outside of Australia. And we picked up this boat for about $1,000, and it was, I loved it, but it was an absolute wreck. The first time we went out, the centerboard ripped out. Just everything. Every problem you could have with the boat, we had with it. And, but it was, learning on the job as well. Like that was pretty cool. Like we'd basically go out, break it, come in, repair it. At the time, my dad's a boat builder by trade, so he'd sort of nick a few bits from work, and we'd fix stuff at home in the evening, on the weekends, and then that was sort of where I sort of started getting a bit of the technical side and of sailing, which is a big part of it, obviously, and I think it's still the boat where I've seen the biggest transformation of any boat I've ever seen in my life, because when we bought the boat, it had this spinnaker, which was basically had the material consistency of a grocery bag, and you probably scrunch it up into your hand, smaller than a Coke can, and we splashed out for a new spinnaker, because previously the boat was always just wouldn't move, it wouldn't accelerate, wouldn't do anything, and we put this new spinnaker on it, and it was the biggest night and day difference I think I've ever seen in my life. It was just me and my mate fell out the back of the boat when it accelerated off, and it was incredible. It was just never, and I think still to this day, never seen such a big, sailing now, everything's a bit newer and a bit nicer from day one sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Well, we'll get on to the fact that you've sailed into, that you've fallen into like sailmakers royalty in a minute, having given that first lesson that you just need new sails all the time.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that later. What I'm interested in here though is like at 13 though, like your parents aren't involved in yachting, or they were a little bit. Your dad's obviously, well, as you said, a boat builder. Was he a bit of a yachty, or is just part of the game?
Yeah, so dad sailed 14s a lot in Sydney, sort of when he was, teenager till, basically until having sort of kids, and they ended up moving away from Sydney, so he stopped sailing a bit. But he did cherubs as a teenager, and then 14s, and sort of was in the big development phase of skiffs then, when it was, he was started sailing and when it was symmetric spinnakers, and then did the transition to asymmetrics and all that sort of higher performance stuff. And so sort of I was always growing up around boats, and dad sailed here and there on yachts and sort of whatever he could, but and he actually tried to get me into sailing when I was much younger, when I was 6 or 7, and I enjoyed it, but it was just not a friends were doing other sports, and it just didn't really click, sort of thing, and did about every sport imaginable, and then I think at 13, where it was with school, and it just sort of all clicked together, and it just was the right moment, and that sort of was when it came good. But mum not at all on the sailing thing, but dad's a pretty keen sailor, and does a bit now. He has a laze that he sails around in a bit, and he's keen on it, but just sort of when he has the time. So it's so there was a bit of an introduction from him for sure, and he's been a big part of both parents really, in through my whole career, staying motivated and helping with decisions and all that, because that's not easy, especially at the beginning, so when you're sort of a bit new to it all.
Sorry, Jordan, I know you got something on the tip of your tongue.
Keep going,
but we've had several discussions with quite a few people, and when you said to your mum and dad, whether it was 17 or whether it was any other age, I'm going to become a professional sailor, did they just say, no, mate, pull your head in, you got to go to university, you got to do this, you got to do that? Did that happen, or they encourage you to take it on?
No, I mean, it was all a bit of a weird setup. I think if we hadn't moved to the UK, I think that, to be fair, my parents are pretty, open-minded. They were basically on the program of whatever I wanted to do, they would sort of support me in doing that. But it was, as long as I was doing it with all of my ability and, just sort of giving it everything. If I was doing something halfway, it wasn't going to fly. But as long as I was giving it all and had a clear sort of objective or whatever, I think it was fine. But when we moved to the UK, we sort of really struggled because mum's a nurse, and she sort of got work with the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, and basically when we arrived in the UK, it all sort of fell apart a little bit, and work didn't really happen, We were living in Oxford, then we moved, and then we moved to Southampton, then we moved to Hamble, then we moved to Warsash, and me and my sister, we changed school, I think 4 or 5 times in the space of, 8 or 10 months. So, school, I loved school in Australia, and, it was not great, had my subjects, I would say, but, I was, into it and there, and, in the UK, it was just, really difficult, and, obviously moving school heaps and just sort of, that lack of consistency is always pretty difficult. And I think, when I started seeing sailing in the UK and yacht sailing and stuff like that, I think it, gave a bit of consistency to me anyway. And I think, my parents saw that there was a career to be had in the UK, and, sort of amazingly, I guess they trusted me enough to stay in the UK at 17, which was pretty tough. And I remember they basically, I sort of decided that I was going to stay, and they said, well, okay, but on one condition, that you have a place to live. And I found a room to rent in Hamble, sort of a shared house in Hamble, and it was pretty ridiculous, really. But I moved into this place, and my dad had already left back to Oz, and my mum was leaving sort of the next day or 2 days later or something. And after about a week in this place, they just randomly came down one day and just said, Jack, we'd prefer it if you left, and moved out. And whatever the reasons were, fine. They didn't want to live with a 17-year-old or whatever their reasoning was, but that was pretty tough. And, Mum was sort of just like, nah, you're coming home. That's it. I'm going to come get you, and then we'll fly off. And in the end, it was sort of maybe fate, but I'd met a guy the day before in HYS in Hamble, a guy called Haig Ewans, a South African guy, and he's a sort of mechanic, a marine mechanic, and I sort of called him and I was like, you haven't by chance know anyone that might have a room or something? I'm like, all my life, struggling a bit here. And he's like, yeah, no worries, man, come and live at my place. And that was really, sort of in the end, the best thing that could happen, because, he sort of welcomed me with open arms, and, it was sort of through him that I, made a pretty good friend group in Hamble, and made a lot of contacts, and it was sort of from there it started. So it was cool. But yeah, it was a interesting ride.
It's a bit of a sliding doors moment, that one, if that room hadn't come, what would your life be now? Yeah,
would have moved back to the Blue Mountains, and would have been interesting to see how that would have gone. So
yeah, interesting. Like I want to go down like this, the whole thing with your folks and them coming for a couple of years and going back to Oz. That's the plot of a movie where they're just trying to abandon you, mate. It was a scam. They planned it out, long plan. But
absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it.
But
the thing that I feel more serious, like it sounds to me you knew what you wanted pretty young, hey? Like, and I'm just interested, when did you suddenly just go, this is it? When was that passion? Was it when you were 15? Or was it, you just suddenly clicked when you thought, shit, I got to go home. There's too many opportunities here.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Like, I remember when I started getting into sailing in Australia, I basically watched Awesome Aussie Skiffs on repeat. That was pretty much the only thing I had on the TV before I could ever have some TV time. And then, there was sort of the stories of the Whitbread and the Volvo Ocean Race at the time in the 60s. And, it was just always those sort of adventures that inspired me, I guess. And then, there was the race in 2000 and with the big catamarans and, stuff like that. And I think when I was in Australia, I just never felt so far removed from the world that, just felt like another planet. I was like, I never even contemplated being able to do it. I was just like, that sounds pretty cool. And, it was, I think at the time as well, it was even more the adventure that attracted me than the racing or the actual competitive side of it. I think just to be able to sail off around the world on a boat, with all the things that go with that, I just always found amazing. And, stories of people in the Southern Ocean and, all that sort of stuff, it just sounded crazy, it just sounded insane. And, so, I always had a pretty big interest in that sort of thing. And then I think it was really when I moved to the UK, I was moving to the UK, I was reading Ellen MacArthur's book and Pete Goss's book and, all those sort of shorthanded British legends, shall we say? They were big inspirations as well. And I think when I got to the UK, I just saw, I remember going to Southampton, going to Ocean Village, and there was Mike Golding's and Mocha there, and I was just like, wow, I'm here. This is where this is. This is how it happens. Like, and it just sort of something clicked that day. Just when I saw Mike's boat in Ocean Village, I was like, I still don't know anything about it, but it's here that it's going to happen. And, this world is on this planet, it's not unachievable, or and I think, from there it was just sort of especially with all that was going on with, so much moving around and, pretty chaotic couple of years we had in the UK. I think that just sort of gave a solid thing that I, just all my attention went to that, and dreaming of doing things and adventures and whatever else. And, I still had no idea how to do it. I think, offshore sailing is quite a weird career choice in some ways, that there's no right or wrong path. There's a million ways to do it. There's no right or wrong way. It's not, you want to be a lawyer, you go to school and you do uni, then there's a pathway sort of thing. But I think offshore sailing there's no pathway, which is good because there's a lot of ways to do it, but it's also bad because it's how do you do it effectively? And basically at the time I just didn't have the financial means or the capability to sort of start effectively Olympic sailing, which is I think what I would have carried on doing in if I was in Australia.
Yep.
Or going down that sort of route. And then and in the UK for me it was just sailing as much as possible, which in the end I just used to basically go to a marina on weekends on race days and just stand at the top of the dock asking everyone that walked past if they needed a crew.
Wow.
And then just trying to get work on boats. And the first job was UK Sales in Swanwick Marina. And I remember they must have just hated me in the end, because I basically went in one day and asked if I could have a job. And then, so I was like 15 or 16 or something. And I then went every day to the loft until they gave me a job. So it was like 3 or 4 months, I think I just walked to this loft every day. And then eventually they're like, all right, just come and work for us. Just stop annoying us. So,
It reminds me of the time Jordan was at this particular nightclub. He would just stand there at the top of the stairs. Can you let me in? Can you let me in? Can you let me in? And then the girls started walking past, and it's like, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? Oh, hang on. No, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. I think, but it's like you're obviously determined, mate. And I guess all that led to a couple of things. One is that I guess the Artemis Offshore Academy thing, that must have been a game changer, because you got to do the Figaro, so that, you got to win that prize as the top rookie. How was that it? Was that the game changer, do you reckon?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it was. Like, before that, I was sort of basically working on boats as effectively a job, and, sailing as much as possible. And, at that sort of time, the big objective was to do the Volvo Ocean Race. And, I was just basically emailing everyone possible. And, I always wanted to do the short-handed thing, but it's such a difficult game to get into, because it's pretty much all about, finding money at the end of the day. I think, in the French scene, there's a lot more setup. It's a lot more ways to do it because it's a lot more normal here. But, as a foreigner trying to do short-handed sailing, it's very, very difficult to get your foot in the door. And I think the Artemis Academy, that was, as you say, the game changer for my career. It was a way in, and it was a way in to do it the first time roughly set up. And stepping into that shorthanded world, there's so much to learn, especially, if you're outside of if you're not a French sailor, basically, where, they're brought up with that culture, Anglo-Saxon culture growing up. It's Olympic sailing, crew sailing. And, to go into solo sailing is a really big step. One, just doing it, but also culturally, not, the whole setup of it is a big thing. And, to be able to do a first year where, you've got a boat, you've got, good funding, and, everything's roughly in place. obviously nothing's perfect, but it was it was an amazing opportunity and amazing experience. And that first year of Figaro is still one of the best years of my life, and still some of the most amazing experience I've had. And can't thank them enough, Artemis and Charles Derbyshire and Mark Turner, and all the people that made that project happen, because it was a starting point for the a lot of guys: Sam Goodchild, Henry Bombi, Alan Roberts, a lot of Will Harris, all those guys that are now doing bigger solo projects or ocean races or whatever else. It was all we all started there, banging our heads around trying to work out how to sail single-handed in a 33-foot Beneteau. So it was
in saying that, Jack, the first time you've gone offshore by yourself, single-handed, is it kind of like that? You're just like, what the hell am I doing here? Do you go to sleep? Do you not go to sleep? How do you trim the sails? Do you like all those different things? Is it kind of bit of a blur, or it's taught through the Artemis Academy? What was you feeling the first time offshore?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big. Yeah, I mean, it was a big day. It was a big day out. And standard, I went out and it was all light wind, and then the wind picked up plenty, and then it ended up being pretty full on, and just a few times I just remember looking back, I was like, oh, right, there's no one there, and you're like yelling at someone to uncleat something. You're like, oh, actually, there's no one there. You need to work out how to do this, and it was pretty entertaining. Like everything happened. Cameras, it would have been. yeah, and it's just that sort of the mindset of getting into it. When in a crewed boat or whatever else, everything happens pretty much instantly, or you can roll into stuff. Whereas like solo, it's so you need to plan everything out so much more. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to drop the spinnaker in 500 meters. It's not a thing.
Yeah, sure.
You need to be like, is the autopilot on the right setting? Is the ballast full or empty? Is the stack right? Navigationally, what is my trajectory? Do I need to do a jibe? If I jibe, is this going to work? Like, there's just a million things to think of before you start anything. And then, the first day you just roll into stuff and you go, oh, you look at the chart and you go, actually, I need to drop the kite now. And then, you just sort of start doing it, and then it's pretty much carnage, and you end up in a big mess. But you live and you learn, and the best thing I think with that project was that we, and sort of the normal Figaro training plan is basically throughout the winter. That first year we were actually in the south of France in a place called Le Grand Mot, which is near Montpellier, and we were just sailing 5 days a week, racing, speed testing, with sort of 10 boat training group we had. And you've got a lot on, but you get there, you progress quickly. And the first day you go out and the coach like sets a 1 mile windward leeward course, and you're just like, no, that's not going to happen. And the first thing, you're just wiping out everywhere, spinnaker poles in the water, broken things here and there, and then you just get into it. And then sort of by the end of the winter, I was doing windward leewards like I was sleeping, so it was it's a pretty cool thing to take on. And I think that solo stuff, it's such a good school, and especially in one design. Obviously the Figaro is one design. Any error is so harshly punished, so it's just such a good school, because I think for me anyway, it was like my Olympic program, I guess. For me, the Figaro was where it all where it started, where all my big skill set basically came from, and it's what taught me the majority of what I've got. So or the at least the good mindset. So it was pretty cool.
Again, and we've kind of spoken about it on the podcast before, but the sharing of information, and we've heard a lot from especially the US 505 sailors, that they share a lot of information. Did that happen during those times in France with those 10 Figaros, for example? Like, did you share information, or people kind of different cultures, I'm guessing, or different nationalities? Did some people kind of hold what they thought was fast? Did you share it all? How'd that all pan out?
In that training school, we were very open. Everything was shared, and part of the reason that Artemis Academy set up there was because of that, and it was a very welcoming sort of a training center. And we had that year we had an amazing coach, a guy called Nicolas Béranger, who was a Figaro sailor for about 8 or 9 years, with a sponsor. So he was an amazing guy to sort of be leading it. And we pretty much shared everything from boat setup, how to do maneuvers, video debriefing. It was basically a briefing, a sailing, and then a debriefing each day. And, everything obviously was shared in the debriefs. The difficult one was, I remember the first day basically in the training camp was, the whole French language thing. At that time I didn't speak French, and, basically rolled into the day, sort of, got by. Nicola, the coach, spoke really good English, so that was fine. But, in the debrief, it was, there'd be a 20-minute conversation about some sort of setting. And then we'd be like, can you sort of give us a breakdown of what just happened? And there was just sort of like, we were talking about vang tension, and, this should be more now.
Pull your jib on.
I was like, yeah, I need to get on the French pretty sharp. So, that was the cue to work out French. But everything else, we then shared, weather routing before starts and race prep and stuff like that. And, over the 4 years, I guess I did Figaro sailing. I was in a few different training schools, and they're all pretty open. There's a few a bit less, and it's a bit individual dependent. Some individuals don't share as much as others, obviously, but in general, it's a pretty welcoming and welcoming fleet with good information sharing and good general progression of everyone. So that's nice.
It's interesting,
and it's sort of for the training schools as well. It's in maybe not the individuals, but it's in the training center's interest that their boats do well together, because that gets more people there, and they're more recognized as a better training center. So that's sort of the like any training center. But
the interesting thing there, mate, is not only are you doing the sailing training, but you're doing all the connections, and you're getting the language skills, and so you've rolled a big dice. And from that, not only did you get recognised as a sailor, but obviously you made the contacts. I'd say that at that time you started to get to know Charles Cordrelier. And I don't know if it was through Charles or through Bruno that you did that first ocean race, but, the whole first time of Dongfeng where you're just driving the rib, and then by leg 3 you're on the boat, and that was the big break into that. Or
last leg skipper,
yeah. or not only that, but then you met your wife, you got a kid, and by the way, Bruno, because I know you'll be listening, happy birthday. We're recording it today as your birthday, mate. I know that. So so we just better acknowledge the great man's birthday. But those connections sort of starting to come, and then it's from there that those opportunities start to flow. But I guess you just seem to grab them. You seem to grab them all, mate.
Yeah, I think I always had. I think I was maybe a bit, ruthless in my approach. That from sort of day one, I guess when I was 15, 16, 17, I was like, the objective is the ocean race and the Vendée Globe, or both ideally. And I was pretty much on my decision-making process, I think, each time was, does this get me closer to doing it? Yes or no? And that was the only real thing there, in terms of what opportunities I took or didn't, or how I did things. There's times where it's hard because, there was times when I let people down because I chose something else that I was committed for, and, went off and did something else. But and sorry for that to the people if there's anyone listening, but I think at the end of the day they understood that, and as long as I could sort of justify it in my head and it was sort of reasonable, that was sort of how I looked at it. And then sort of the rest was just just annoying people. Actually with Dongfeng, it actually started through Graham Terrell, who was the boat captain for Dongfeng, and I did a bit of sort of shore work on the boat when I was very brand new, basically launching from Green Marine, and helped them out a bit for a couple of weeks. And then the boat went off to China and did its thing, and then came back, and the boat was back in the UK to do Cows Week, and I'd just finished my second Figaro, and I was living on my boat in Southampton, and I had about £5, I reckon, in my bank account. And Gringo called me up. He said, Graham, sorry, Gringo is his nickname, called me up and said, do you want to drive the rib for a week on Dongfeng? We need someone. I was like, is it paid? He's like, yep. Is there accommodation? Yep, I'm there tomorrow. And basically got straight over there. And that was pretty amazing. That was sort of how it started with Dongfeng, and I met my wife that day or that week, and that was a pretty amazing project to be involved with. So
just clarifying,
it was pretty cool.
The amazing project was Dongfeng, not the wife.
Both.
Oh. We have to be careful. I don't want to offend anyone here because
Jordan's pretty good at offending people.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you said you just keep annoying people and these opportunities come, and I'm thinking I annoy a lot of people and there's no opportunities.
So give us Jordan kind of spoke about it, but you've gone from driving the rib to leg 3 you're on board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how'd that transition from driving to being on board? Was that just you did a bit of training and Charles at some point in time said jump on, or what's the program there?
Yes. So I did the Cows Week as a rib driver, and then I had no real plan after that. I was sort of in the back of my mind was to do a third year in the Figaro the following year, but at the time I had no money, no boat, no nothing. I was just working forward, hoping for the best. And when I did Cows Week, they basically said, oh, can you come to France and just do some shore work? The boat was going to have sort of a 3 or 4 week sort of mini refit down in Lorient before going to Alicante for the start. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So I sort of went down to Lorient and, worked on the boat and did that and sort of hung out with everyone. And then I was just sort of, sort of started with, Gringo just saying, what's the sailing team situation? What's going on? And then, Charles and Bruno started being around a bit more. And I was like, just asking every now and again, can I just come for a sail? Can I just come out? Like, just anything. Like, a technical day, I don't care. I just want to go for a sail. And eventually they just said, right, I come tomorrow. We're doing a photo shoot or something, and one of the guys can't come. So I went out in his place, and then sort of the next week was the delivery trip down to Alicante, and I said, well, can I come on the delivery? And in the end, Charles was keen for that, and actually one of the other guys, Thomas Ruxel, who was one of the French sailors, he was meant to do the delivery, but I went instead of him, and he sort of had a week off, which I think he loved. So, it's just before the start. And, I think sort of by the time we got into Alicante, Charles, I guess liked how I was sailing, and, it was sort of there. I said, well, can I be a reserve sailor for the team? And I'll be around, I'll hang out, I'll do the shore work stuff, as much as needed. And I sort of worked up till the start and did the first few stopovers as a shore crew. Nothing was guaranteed as a sailing role. But eventually, leg 3 basically came good. And one of so there was 2 Chinese guys on board per leg. And one of the Chinese guys that did the leg 3 was over 30. And to fit within the rule, there had to be an under 30 which was sort of my place basically. So that all worked out nicely, and did leg 3, and that was sort of insane.
Now,
pretty,
for the listener,
cool.
we say Bruno, which is Bruno Dubois, who we've had on the show previously, who was basically running the team at that point in time, with Mark Turner as well for that particular edition. Now, tell me, did Bruno know at this point in time that you and his daughter had hooked up?
This is because let's flesh that out even
because
now we're getting into it.
I think I might know a little more than we should let on right here.
Because
Jack, do tell.
I'll throw it as a question, Bicey. Did that first week had interest been shown in that first week, and that your wife may have whispered to Bruno and said, this Jack guy's good. Perhaps he could come to Lorient. This is how early was interest expressed? This mutual interest expressed, mate.
No, there was nothing early on.
Okay.
There was it was actually Sanya that we actually it was sort of official but not official, because Bruno didn't know about it at that time, and I was still under the impression that I was about to start dating the boss's daughter, and he was going to kill me. So it sort of stayed under the radar for a little while, and then it all came out.
He's got a bit of Dr. Evil about him, doesn't he?
Yeah, but it was pretty funny. Like on that, I was jumping forward a little bit, but so Coralie and I got together in Sanya at the end of that leg that I first leg I did on the boat, and in the following edition, the second edition of Dongfeng, Coralie and I got engaged in Hong Kong. But I didn't do it right, shall we say, in that I didn't ask Bruno's permission beforehand.
Jackson.
Here we go.
Jackson.
Here we go. It was all a bit spur of the moment, and it was all how it is. So he was obviously thrilled, but there was always this little sort of bit of banter and a bit of Jack. You didn't do it the right way. So what's going on?
But in the meantime,
we eventually sat down.
Oh, sorry.
We eventually sat down and worked this out. And he said, "Righto, Jack." This was halfway through the last Volvo Ocean Race. He said, "Jack, if you win the race, I'll give you my permission to marry my daughter." So no pressure.
The thing is, Bruno would have delivered that with such a straight face too,
it was beautiful. It was beautifully done. and so obviously,
you took that on, and it's like, Bruno, I hear you loud and clear.
Exactly.
Challenge accepted.
You should have said, "Put me in charge."
So obviously we couldn't make it too easy for him, because we had to leave it till the last minute to couldn't have just won 3 legs
last
to go.
minute,
no
exactly. Yeah.
How was that jibe in the middle of the night when you guys went straight and the others jibed off? Like, what? How nervous were you then? Right then?
Yeah, there was
Shit.
a few. Yeah.
I'm not getting. Was it like?
I'm not getting married here, lads.
Guys, I've got a deal.
We got to pull this one out of the bag, otherwise the future's not going to be good. But it worked. Like, obviously crossed the line in The Hague, and Bruno was the first person to get on the boat from the rib, sort of explaining how we have to go in, and the whole thing that was about to follow. And there was just so Bruno, I guess I can marry your daughter now. Just sort of on the side, and it was official. It was good.
Nice.
And what a finish that was. I mean, I couldn't imagine anywhere else in the world that could create a finish that big, especially with the history and everything involved. I mean, France itself, you would have experienced what goes on in France, but to finish that particular race as winners, and especially with Caroline on board, must have been exceptional experience.
It was insane. It was undescribable. Like, especially we, just the situation it ended up in. going into the last leg that, you know, 3 boats on equal points. The rest of the fleet didn't matter. You know, we were on equal points because we had the accumulated time point, which is a accumulated fastest time over the whole race. And, you know, just to go into a race like that, a leg like that was, you know, and I think, you know, for me as well, the pre-start, like that stopover in Gothenburg was, you know, one of the best memories I think I've had, because it was just, you know, I remember sort of having to take a moment to myself at some point during that stopover, just being like, I'm here and, you know, one of the top teams in the world fighting for one of the biggest trophies in sailing, in mode, like, what can we do to be better? Like, just, there was no holds barred. It was like, budget had gone out the window by then. What can we do? Is there, you know, just every single question was coming up. What is there? Is there any edge we can find here and there? Like, you know, in those teams, you know, you have 40 people in the team, you know, everyone's just doing their bit. The boat's beautiful. Everything's sorted, you know, just, it's such an amazing thing to be part of. You know, and especially in those, you know, crunch moments where it's, you know, in that high pressure sort of thing, you know, for me, that was like, you know, the Olympic, you know, the going into the medal race, or, you know, the America's Cup final, or climbing Mount Everest, or whatever, you know, signing a big contract, you know, whatever your buzz is, like, that was, for me, that was as good as, you know, that sort of thing gets, you know.
I'm a bit disappointed, actually. I'm a bit disappointed, actually. No one didn't wear like a Dongfeng skin suit for aero.
For aero games. Yeah, true.
Hey,
but how wet that leg would have been, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
how wet that leg was.
A quick, like, I know we're kind of doing this on a chronological thing, but how did you go from a nerves point of view, like, on your first massive offshore? Like, my old man always used to say, like, the hardest thing is undoing the dock lines. Once you're out there, it's fine. But that period, like that morning, like the nerves of going offshore for a week or 2, 3, whatever it is, did that play on you? Or do you think it's now going to play on you a bit more now you have a child and all those sorts of things?
Definitely find it harder now with it, since having a family and kids and all that. You know, it's definitely one more thing on your mind. You know, as before when I was young and single, I was like, well, let's go. Yeah, you know, there's no, you know, there's always nerves, but it, you know, I think it depends on the situation a bit. I think, you know, when you prepare for something like an ocean race or a Figaro, or you know, you've been preparing for something for such a long time and you've put so much into it, and it's pretty much all that's on your mind, you know, work-wise, for such a long period of time. You know, to an extent, some of those nerves get eaten out because you've been thinking about it for so long, and you know, I think in a certain way your mind's already left the dock on start day in general, because you're thinking beyond, you know, untying the lines and leaving. But, you know, for sure, it's always difficult. I remember, like, the first leg of my first Figaro, I couldn't eat breakfast, and you know, I eat a lot of food, and I don't think I've ever skipped a meal. And I was like, wow, this must be big. And you know, I think, you know, the ocean race is always, you know, hard. I think when you get up in the morning, especially if it's an early start and you need to wake up really early. But you know, the ocean race, there's always such an amazing buzz to go off the dock. You know, there's music and there's people, and, you know, it's always such a cool thing to leave the dock. So I think it makes it easier. The one that I think was the hardest, to be honest, was the Jules Verne. You know, I've done 3 attempts now and none of them successful, unfortunately, but one day. And, you know, that's a really weird one, because you prepare, you know, there's no start day. It's just a start window. So you could leave, you know, you go on standby on the 1st of November, you know, basically the boat's ready. And then pretty much you go home, do sport and whatever, and hang out until a good weather window comes, and you sort of end up in this weird, you know, the first attempt I did, you know, we'd sat on standby for 2.5 months. so you're basically at home doing sport, a bit of surfing, a bit of whatever, but, you go to the boat every now and again, but not particularly sailing. And then basically we rocked up in Brest, had a night in a hotel in Brest. The next day, put our kit on board, and then left at like 3 a.m. in the morning. And then 3 hours later, we were averaging 39 knots across the Bay of Biscay. And it's just like, what is going on? You've been at home. It's just like, complete carnage. Like just all at home, comfortable, nice, next to the fire, and then just straight into terrifying sailing at 40 knots in the middle of the night. It's it's an interesting one. And for a long period of time, 40 days.
I love that statement, terrifying sailing at those speeds, because everything you're sailing from now on, you're sailing at ridiculous speeds, because we mentioned, you're going to be doing the Volvo again on the 11th hour. So you're on the Imoca 60, the fully foiling boat. You're in the midst of it right there at Lorient, where all the boats, there's been so many boats being launched, it must be, it just must be insane, like what's your views on all this? Like how, like that class is going great, but sailing those things, all that sort of stuff, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, France is a pretty special place at the moment. Like there's, if you look, I think obviously COVID had a pretty big effect on the sailing world, and in some ways COVID actually made the French scene stronger, because the last Vendée Globe, with so many people in COVID and quarantine and everything, following the Vendée Globe was massive, because there was a lot of people at home. It was sort of
nothing else to do,
and it was very well done, and they and it was a thing to follow and a thing to be excited about, and not thinking about the whole pandemic and everything else. So it actually it ended up with huge following. Like it was equivalent of the Tour de France or the Roland Garros or something like that. So it was a massive following, and even up to the start of the Vendée, there was a lot of doubt. Will it happen? Won't it? What are sponsors going to do? And there was sort of always this assumption that there was always a big fleet. There was 30 boats or whatever it was, and by then your sponsor is committed till the end of the Vendée. So there was a big sort of, will it happen? Won't it? But once they said the race will go, everyone's sponsorship budgets had been committed. And then, there was just this sort of assumption that after the Vendée, it would fall off a cliff. There'd be no boats, there'd be no sponsors, and that would be it. But in fact, the Vendée was such a success, and, as well, that the Ocean Race became, using the Imocas as well, the same class of boat, it just boomed. And, there's 15 boats that have been built or in build since the last race, since the last Vendée. So it's pretty incredible. I think the performance jump now is pretty crazy. The boats are, as Charlie Enright describes them, monomarans, so halfway between a monohull and a catamaran. But and they are really that, like the way you sail them, the way you trim them, it's multi-hull sailing now. The boat's just going so fast. But they are extremely uncomfortable boats.
Right.
Compared to the old Volvo Ocean Race days, with a flat deck and, super exposed, sort of always water over the deck that would, cause injury effectively on deck. And, now we're pretty protected, basically a fully enclosed cockpit and, everything's inside basically. So you don't actually have much risk of being washed off, so we say, except during a sail change or something. But the movement on the boat is pretty violent, because you've got, obviously the hull is still touching water at times. So you have that interacting with waves, but then you've got the foil interaction, which sometimes is, consistent and sometimes not at all. And also the fact that there's no T-rudder, so there's no foiling appendage at the back of the boat. The boat effectively semi-foiling, which ends up, basically the back of the boat slapping sort of thing as you go. And that's pretty horrendous at times. Wow. And, the boats are, trying to sleep inside. It's like, we're on chat of seatbelts and ratcheting selves down and all sorts of stuff. The old Volvo boats definitely weren't comfortable, but these seem to be another ball game, just with the with the vertical motion and the slamming and all that, and because the slamming's so far aft as well. The slamming zone used to be forward of the keel. Now it's basically the back quarter of the boat, which is the slamming zone. So it's pretty far aft where you're talking, and it's sort of where you're sleeping, and it's pretty difficult to live on board. But they're pretty incredible boats, but at the expense of any comfort.
So with 11th Hour and the Ocean Race, obviously you've been training with those boys, that team a bit. How are you doing your watch system? Is it just going to be 2 on deck at each time, or how do you sail it?
Yeah, so we've just been running a 2 on, 2 off with a rotation of one person every 2 hours or hour or whatever time period we decide to do. So there's just a sort of natural rotation. And then obviously it's everyone on deck for any maneuvers and sail changes and stuff like that. So it's, it is short-handed sailing. There's 2 of you on deck. If there's anything to do, there's 1 of you with the boat sort of thing. So, it is effectively short-handed sailing. So it's, it's a bit different because, there is a crew. And, sort of the big thing to work out is, how to manage the crew, when to push the boat. And, I think the boats now, it's such a big question of how and when you push the boat, because there's so much potential speed from the foil, because the boat can foil, but also on the backside of that, you can just self-destruct the boat very, very quickly. They're not tanks, they're super lightweight, and, everything's done to a minimum. And with the foil, you can be fully airborne in, any sea state, and which is very fast, but it can also then be very, very slow if something explodes. So it's trying to find that balance, which is pretty difficult. But it's time on the water and experimenting and learning. But it's interesting.
So your particular boat been in the water for 12 months or so, or plus.
Yep.
What you see coming out now, is there something that grabs your eye? Something that you can, or we basically got to sit tight till route to run? Or what's this here? TJV, right?
So there's the route to run in November.
Sorry,
which is a solo transat.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We'll just be at the Ocean Race start in January. But all the other boats doing the Ocean Race will do that race.
Yeah.
Single-handed, and then join for the Ocean Race. The boat, as a concept, is sort of effectively an Amoca on turbo, and it's we're still working out how to sail the boat, to its full potential, but getting a lot closer every day, obviously. But I think it's more of these boats, it's going to be an average sailing, I think, and then picking the moments where you want to go turbo. And I think we've got a good boat, with a few things up our sleeves to do certain things at certain times, which other boats, might or might not be able to see. But that's sort of how the game's playing out, just with I think the way you've got to manage the boat in terms of breakages, and then also the setup of this Ocean Race, because there's the non-stop Southern Ocean leg, which is sort of going to be a bit of a war of attrition, I think. But so it'll be an interesting thing to work out, and it's quite an interesting thought process of how to go about everything. And it's not necessarily sailing the boat all out all the time. There's times where you can have it's a bit multi-hull sailing. You can take a reef and actually you're not going any slower. You might be a degree higher, but you're not actually any slower, and you're way easier on the gear. And it's all those sort of things that it's quite a different boat to sail from the old Ocean Race boats. But obviously we're pretty much exclusively driving with the autopilot now, instead of hand steering. So that's a whole nother thing to be pretty dialed in with. And they drive very, very well, but it's having it dialed and knowing when to do what. And effectively you want to try and make the boat drive how you think you would drive if you were driving, but that's not always easy, because there's settings and lots of settings, and certain settings do good things and certain things, if you at the wrong time, don't do good things. So it's working all that out, and lots to learn.
It's super cool, mate. Like it is very cool. We sort of hit the hour marks, which is what we sort of go for. So I want to ask you one question just for me to finish off is, like, you said the boats are uncomfortable. They're super cool. Like I think you're on the same mindset as us. We just look at these things and just think, yeah, how cool is this? Like we love this development. But are you enjoying the sailing?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably more times compared to before where you're like, this is a struggle. And I think, and that's a bit offshore sailing in general. I think there's a lot of times where it's not particularly comfortable, and I think that's when you got to have that sort of, I think it's a bit of a mental thing, but just to have, being able to just get through the sort of hard times and then really profit, when it's good. And I think, making the most of when it's good helps you get through the times when it's not so good. And, I think a lot of stepping back and realize what you're doing and that it is cool and it's not, banging your head against the wall. I think you've got to keep reminding yourself of that, because it's easy to get down on it all and think of wrong things. So.
Right. I've got one for you then, Jack, before we sign off. You've sailed with some absolute legends: Charles, Kevin, Daryl, Stu, Caroline, for that matter. Who's the best?
If I said Charles, I would never hear the end of it. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that.
All right, we'll leave Charles off.
No. But,
mate, you've sailed with some absolute legends of the sport. I'm sure they all had their different, pros and cons, but I've literally named off all the half of your team from the last win, the Volvo Ocean Race. You got to have a favourite.
A big call. It's a big question to ask. No, I can't put it down to one person. Like, they're all, as you say, have their positives and negatives. Charles, I think, he gave me a big break in my ocean race career, and has been a big mentor for me. So for sure a lot goes to him, and he's one of the most driven, no sacrifice guys I think I've ever met, sailed with. He's just, there's a goal, and if you're in the way, get out of the way, sort of thing. So it's and he's just, there's nothing else when he's on it. And Daryl and Stu were big mentors for me in the last Dongfeng race as well. And they're all can just ramble on them about the qualities of all of them forever. Caroline was an incredible person. Kevin, same. On the new team with Simon Fisher and Charlie Enright, both of them, huge experience, and a lot of respect for those guys. And I think each brings their own trade. I think all the sailing I've done a lot of different cultures, I guess, between the Chinese, the French, the Kiwis, Aussies, Pommies. Mixing them all together is quite entertaining, which we had with Dongfeng. Yeah. I think that was absolute carnage, but in a good way, but never easy. But I think each brings their positive point, and just, I think the nice thing about sailing with different cultures is there's different ways to do things which you don't always agree with on day one, but once you understand their logic, I think it makes you a better rounded sailor, and for these sort of projects. The more you spend time with all those different sort of approaches to things, especially the first time you look at it and you go, that's never going to work, it seems completely stupid, and then actually you get into it and it works. It's just
there's a lot of ways to do stuff, and we find this with bar karate, right?
Yeah,
a lot of ways to do stuff. We all do it in different manners, but you all go for the end goal, right? You all know what the end goal is. So
exactly.
And you've experienced to the absolute maximum, and you're only just starting, mate. You're just a young fella, so you got a long way to go. We didn't even get time to talk about your Open 60, all that sort of stuff. So we're gonna have to do a second episode.
Well, this is what I'm thinking,
sure,
boss. I reckon we'll let you get halfway around the world. Maybe either. I'm thinking just after that Southern Ocean League, and we'll dial you back in, because as Bicey said, we haven't touched on half the things we wanted to touch on, because you're so good at sharing and talking. So if you're keen, I reckon we might plan for that. I reckon, because that'd be a ton of fun for us.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
Yeah, cool, excellent.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks for taking the time, bud.
Thanks, Jack.
Pleasure.
All right, and pass on to your father-in-law our best wishes, mate, and of course your wife and kids. See ya. Oh, Jackie boy, hey, he's not going to die wondering, that lad. He's just rolled the dice and rolled the dice and rolled the dice. He must be great on a boat. I've never sailed with him, but have you sailed with him?
Not with him, nor against him for that matter, because I was in a bit of a different role when Jack came onto the scene. But I remember seeing him as a fresh young face down in Hamble all those years ago.
Yeah.
Here's a young buck on the scene, and more than one person told me, keep an eye out for this young fella. Yeah. And here he is.
Well, congratulations, mate. Great to see. And, he's just living his best life. And, more power to him, He's going to become a legend just by doing that. So, awesome. Great interview, though. And the other thing is, it was so considered, all his responses. And clearly, I mean, we didn't even get close to half the topics we wanted to talk about. So, I think
didn't go to the media school I went to, put it that way.
Yeah, no one's been to your media school, mate. Pretty happy with that one. So we'll do some more with Jack, and best of luck.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
I do have to do a quick congratulations before we get too far. Obviously, we all know I went to Ireland for the 505 Worlds, and I got hosted brilliantly by Richard and Mary Leonard, a lovely couple who hosted me in their house, and their son organised it, Richie Leonard. Now, Richie, massive fan of Baccarati, massive fan, and he listens to everything, and he is a cracking bloke. I had an absolute ball hanging out with him and his parents and his beautiful wife, and she was heavily pregnant when I was there, so I thought I would Now, I just wanted to congratulate Richie, and can you see the run sheet? Can you?
That ruins my theory, Jordan Spencer. I know a lot of magic happens in Ireland, but I thought it was meant to be 9 months, not 9 days.
9 days.
How convenient.
Yes. Now,
to Emma Rosemary Leonard
is the name of the baby.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you could go to the run sheet and just pronounce Richie's beautiful wife's name for me.
Beeben and
Baben.
Yeah.
The Irish, they love a spelling.
Baben Leonard.
Yeah. So congratulations, guys. Super happy for you. So they sent me a lovely email during the week just telling me about the announcement, and I'll be looking forward to wetting the baby's head at some stage in the future.
With the email that came through, was it just due to the kind of the energy that you brought to the household when you're there? Did they have Jordan down as a name if it was going to be a boy?
Okay, here we go. Hope you made it back to the other side without too much hassle. Thought you'd like to hear about baby Emma Rosemary, blah, blah, blah. In the end, we didn't have the baby boy name dilemmas. I was advocating Jordan right till the end. This is the note from Richie. So I don't think he genuinely was, but...
No, of course. No, he was. That's 100% genuine, 23% of the time.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
He knows the rules.
Anyway, oh dear. Good on him. Congratulations. Great life ahead for that young lass. Cool. Moving on, club events. We've got to mention a couple of events this week. They're we're going to the bigger end of the scale, boss.
Mm-hmm.
You happy with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so for the Club Swan Cup, is 11th to the 18th in Porto Cervo. It will be a ton of fun. Obviously, Porto Cervo, beautiful place, lots of boats there. So almost 100 entries from 18 countries signed up for the celebration of sail. That is the Rolex Swan Cup. Going to be excellent. Happens every couple of years and begins as this goes to air. You'd want to be there, wouldn't you, mate?
Oh, mate, what a bunch of fantastic looking boats. Not only the new ones, I think but also the old historical boats as well.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of history in Swan.
Yeah,
and it'll be one of the key events. It's a bucket list event.
Yeah,
the Swan Worlds for sure.
You know, the one thing they haven't done that they could have done to make it better. They should have done a bar karate live from the event.
Live from the event.
Yeah.
I've been working on my Italian.
Yeah.
It would have been a good one.
Yep.
Mate, the last time we went to Porto Cervo,
yes.
they've still got signs up at the airport. So it didn't make it through the firewall, put it that way. No, a big one. 100 boats. Going to be epic event with everything from, like I was saying, from boats of 30, 40 years old up to brand spankers.
Yeah. My song, the 80, be the headline act there, I guess, that one. Yeah. So, but all the 36s be out racing and be a ton of fun. Cool boats, lots of interesting stuff. Our favourite Argentinian designer will be floating around there, no doubt.
Yes, 100%.
100%. We should get him on the show one day. We should have thought of that. Anyway, the other one that's of interest and is the Ibiza Joy Sail, a super yacht.
Tell me about this. I saw this on the run sheet. It didn't come across my desk, but do tell.
Well, it's a festival of sail that starts with a race from Mallorca to Ibiza, and then a whole bunch of super yachts. So it's a super yacht regatta in Ibiza, basically. Starts off on 21st of September. So if you're looking for a bit of space on a super yacht, I'd quickly run over to there and jump into that. So it's a new regatta on the calendar. Everyone's getting super yachts. It's just about a full-time career these days, isn't it? Just zooming around on super yachts. Nice.
Just in the entertainment business.
In the entertainment business. That's
keeping owner and guests happy.
Yeah. So they're going for a great combination of sailing and social activity. So that should be a ton of fun. So
going for a whole host of social activities with a bit of sailing thrown in, I would expect.
Yes. Oh, dear. I don't know how people are going to, they must sell a fortune in bleach, keeping those shirts white, those pants white, I don't know how they're going to keep doing it. But
oh, no, sorry. I thought if you were going to go there, you were going to get some frosted tips, were you? Bit of bleach. You'd look good.
Not a chance, mate. Not a chance. Oh, dear. That's more of a Port Adelaide supporter style move, that one. Oh, dear. Anyway, so if you're looking to get your chance, maybe that's 21 September, get down to Ibiza. And, let's be honest, it's not that bad going to Ibiza anyway. But
yeah, exactly.
Rush down. Jack Lloyd, listener of the week. We alluded to this at the start.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cracker, isn't it? This is fun. This is where our job really pays off. Given that we don't make any money out of this show, it's stuff like this that makes us happy, isn't it?
Yes. And has it been done before in such quick succession?
Well, the listener of the week. No, I don't think it has. I'm afraid, yeah. But it's a no-brainer, isn't it? We couldn't not award this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it the 100-word version, Jordan.
Oh, okay. So basically, Bill Goggins, CEO of Harkin, has come back. He heard our mention about the Taser Worlds and their upcoming Taser Worlds, and he's written in, Dear Alistair, or AM, as our friends at Barkarati call you, because Alistair Murray has been awarded a medal Australia. So he's got the title AM after his initials, so we call him AM. Thanks for the promotion of the upcoming Taser Worlds on Buckarati. We know it's a special class for you, near and dear to your heart. Appreciate the fantastic support you've provided over the years. Thanks to Jordan Bicey for taking up the 17 to 25 September event. We Americans are excited to host this epic class in Seattle very soon.
High five.
High five, yeah. Their Harkin man, Alan Johnson, who is a 505 sailor, has done some great recon and confirmed there are 5 Australian teams entered but couldn't find AM. The bad news for everyone out there who loves Alistair, I don't know if I should mention, but he's not been well. He's been unwell and he probably just can't get there. But anyway, pillar of the class, just hoping and waiting till you register at the last minute. Late entry fees might require you to sell a few more Ronston Orbit blocks to cover it. I'll be happy to buy the world's second best ratchets from you at the appropriate trade discount if that will cover it. Anyway, he asked what the AM means besides Alistair Murray, so I sort of quickly explained that. Back to the Worlds. If you need sizable motivation to lead the confines of your homes in Melbourne, Vegas, come to Seattle for the Worlds. We have taken the opportunity to win the day's racing any day and be awarded the Taser World Harkin Boat of the Day Award, including trophy Harkin hats and, of course, Harkin Red Beer Cooler filled with the second best beer behind Sailor's Lager that might be available in the USA Pacific Northwest. So, Alistair, think about that. All your dreams could come true. You could be recognised as the Taser World's Harkin Sailor of the Day. That's right up there with the Buckarati Jack Lloyd Listener of the Week, mate. I love you, Alistair, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on. And Pete's come in. So Pete Harkins jumped in. And then some comments about young Pete Goggins, or Pedro Goggins, as you like to call him, and the contributions being made.
Into the swear jar.
Yeah, and Bill actually contributed there. So, yes, but I won't read that one out. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, and it continues. The banter is continuing. And so Harkin and Ronston are just firing messages at each other at the moment, which is a ton of fun. And we're just witnessing it. So that's what makes
Bill,
it good.
There may or may not be a merch pack on its way. I'll send it to the Pacific Northwest. We'll see if it arrives there.
You know, the only thing that the Harkin Taser Worlds haven't done, right?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't organised to have a live Buckarati.
Oh, Jesus. We're going to be busy, I tell you, once this show starts catching on a little bit.
You might pick up a theme this week. You hang on. All right.
Ole, 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 ole. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
It's hot time with Bice.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
I love the way he says Bice.
Well, every time I walk into our little shared office, here comes Bice.
On you, Harry. Cool.
Hey, speaking of worlds, mate, it's world mania.
It's
like
mania.
August, September is just it's a solid world off.
It's a world off.
So, not to mention all the other regattas that are going on in the world. It's a bit of around the grounds. For the time being. So got the Maxi Worlds, and here's some names that we all have heard of these boats. So that's been run and won with the J class being run by Svea. How do you pronounce it, you reckon? Svea. Owned by a bunch of, not a bunch of, 3 Swedish owners, of which one of them being Nicholas Sennström previously done plenty of work in the kind of the real Grand Prix classes, and he was skippering this week. So well done to him and his crew. Ranger second, Valshida third. In the Super Maxi class, the Swan 115s took first and third. So pretty good stuff going on there. Maxi class, Highland Fling, which is a name we all know. Been around for quite some time, took out the win ahead of Galatea, of which we have many a mate on. mini maxi class, or we call it the X Maxi 72s. I don't know what they call themselves anymore because they've all kind of switched configurations, whatever you. Vesta over Proteus and Bellamente, and then finally mini maxi zero class.
Yes.
Taken out by the Flying Nika.
Yes.
They weren't sailing against each other, anyone else.
No.
But still would have been quite the scene. I saw some notes from Mark Mills. They did some 39-mile course or something, averaged 25 knots.
Wow.
Average.
Jeez. That's so cool.
For those that said we're never going to see the trickle down,
it's happening.
Well, it's happening at several millions of dollars price, but we're seeing it, and it's cool.
I'd like to see the trickle down of the money, mate. I'd love to see that trickle down.
Oh, wouldn't you just? Lake Garda ran a regatta, the TF35 Malcasive Cup, Malcasino Cup, taken out by Spindrift. The Lingy Red Bull are still top of the board of the little of their little competition that they're doing.
Yep.
But what a place to go yachting.
Indeed.
The Italians, they do it right.
Yeah.
Portacervo, Lake Garda.
They've got some good spots, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
And their coastline's beautiful as well. So it's, you can have some pretty good sailing in and around there. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got what else have we got going on, my friend? Etchells Worlds coming up.
Etchells Worlds. The controversy continues.
I haven't gone through the start list to see if there's any modified Mold 11s in there, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah. So 15th to 24 in Cows. And it should be interesting, that one. I guess.
You know what?
What?
Maybe they should have got us to go live.
You know
from
what they
Cows.
Yeah, they should have. That would have been smart.
Imagine. There'll be a whole bunch that like me, a whole bunch that like you.
I'm down the middle, mate. I have no...
No, you're right. You're bloody in Switzerland. You're not even in Cows, mate.
That's
you're
right.
in Switzerland. You've got a bloody picket fence stuck up your ass.
That's
you
right.
don't even know which way to go.
The Maxi Worlds should have got us over as well. They should have done us live. That would have been good for them as well.
Yeah, straight out of the Clipper bar.
Yeah. But the Etchells Worlds would be good. We'd be good in Cows.
We'd have to set up a screen to stop them chucking pints at our head.
Like a scene from the Blues Brothers. What else? Hobie Worlds.
Hobie Worlds, yeah. Talk to us about the Hobie Worlds, Jordan, before we slide over to Saint Tropez.
Yeah. So Hobie Worlds are coming up in Costa Brava in Spain, starting on the 15th, so in a couple of days. So 15 to 29 September. They like to, so Hobie 16s, they like to do a big event when they do the Worlds. We've got some front runners who are good mates of ours in the fleet. We might get them on post after the Worlds just to see how they go, but that one will be of interest. So if you're a cat sailor and Hobies are of interest, it's a good battle. They're deadly serious, so it's on. Just thought I'd let you know.
How liberal have we become? 180 episodes, it would have been, if you're a cat whacker out there, blah, blah, blah. Mate,
look, I'll be
are
honest,
accepting of everything.
Yeah. My first response, I started to say whacker, and then I thought I better not.
Exactly.
Because we love
good
them.
We're learning every day.
Yeah, that's right.
So, do all the cat sailors out there,
you know what would
thank
make
you very
those
much.
Worlds really good? What they've forgotten to do?
Go ahead.
Maybe they should have done a live bar karate.
Bar karate. We're going to have to go on the road here shortly.
It's just an idea that's occurred to us. Speaking of catwhackers, SailGP.
They've been listening. So time of recording, we're yet to go into the final day, right?
That's it, yeah.
Where are we?
A few hours from waking up there.
They have been listening. There's been some trans-Tasman rivalry between the K1s and the what do they call us, you reckon?
the great Australians.
Kangaroo rooters or something like that, probably. I don't know.
The Rubashers? I don't know.
So this is it from wing trimmer Blair Chook. I think it was the last race of the day. On the final upwind of, it was first race. On the final upwind of race one, we found ourselves trailing both the British and the Australians. We executed 2 quick succession tacks well to get ahead of the British and win the Australian. And with the Australians slow at the mark, we tucked inside of them, which meant we were both headed for home at the same time. In sailing, lure boat has the right of way, so Australia had to keep clear. They tried to push over our bow to get to the mark first, but we defended our position, and the Aussies lost control. Driver Tom Slingsby worried damage from his cruise nosedive would be irreparable, reacting on board. All of this damage over something so stupid. We would have happily given the position, and now we have all this damage because the Kiwi driver, Pete Burling, wanted 1 extra point. It's ridiculous. But Burling had another view, and the umpires agreed. So Australia were obviously pushing super hard for the win. It would have been very easy for Tom to slow down in that situation, concede and take a second, but he wanted to push for the win, so we defended. Not sure what he's complaining about, but definitely a bit out of line. I think us drivers may need to pitch in for anger management lessons for Tom. Burling said. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good banter.
Yeah, good banter. I haven't seen the actual footage, but I'm definitely going to go watch and see what happened there.
Yeah, yeah.
But good banter. Good
banter.
banter. Mm.
Yeah,
I mean, last I checked, Windward Boat does keep clear.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
It's good. And the thing about Pete and Blair, top blokes, absolutely top blokes, as they all are. Like, we get on great with all of them, but they're very they don't step outside very defined boundaries with the way they speak. They're a little bit like me sometimes when I'm on this show because I'm a little more careful than you. And,
yep.
And they don't, but when they actually do say something, you know that they've actually thought a lot about it. So, yeah, that for them to say something, that means that they really
one for Pete just to say something to start with.
Yeah. Well, he talks.
No, he does. The other key event that happened on the day is the fastest ever we've seen one of these yachts go.
Yeah.
Be it when it's in America's Cup format or anything like that. But the F50 cracked the French, none less, on the home waters.
Yep.
99.9 kilometres an hour.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I was speaking to Quentin during the week, actually, so I reckon we'll get him on the show soon. He's quite keen to come on. So, but yeah, congratulations. Good to see. Yeah. So it's exciting. I don't think it's going to be as windy today for them.
Today, so change of wings, change of falls, change of everything.
Yeah.
So, she's complete. Well, let's see what's going to happen.
Well, we were talking about the weather during the week. You and I were having a bit of a banter about it, and it looks like it's offshore, so switchy. And then to lighten right out like that. So it'll be interesting. But SailGP doing a good job. There's only one thing they've forgotten.
What? Not everyone's wearing white linens out of France?
No, they should have got Barcarati to go live.
Go live, you reckon?
It's just a thought. It only just occurred to me.
Yeah.
What else you got, mate?
Oh, no, that's it. Oh, sorry. We're going to have to start our little watch shows shortly.
Yeah.
Because, we had Harry's Sharpie doco.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which has gone out.
Yeah.
We now have the Netflix doco about the 83 America's Cup.
Yep.
The Untold Story, I believe it's entitled.
Yep.
And then throughout the week also, we received a note from,
Will Carson.
from Will Carson about Chasing Tokyo about the team GBR in the Olympics.
Yes. Yeah.
Which we are yet to watch, but we will be doing that soon. It could be a bit of a common theme.
Yeah.
And then we can pick up on a lot of the old stuff getting around. Aussie Assault was one of my favourites back in the day. I could probably recite the whole thing right now if you wanted me to. But.
Yeah. So Will Carson's the communications manager for the British sailing team, and they've put this whole documentary together, which I think is interesting because obviously the British team is so strong at the moment. And so it's an inside look at it. It's going to be out on Discovery Plus very soon. They've sent us a link for it. And, you know, he was sort of keen to come on the show and talk about it, wanting to get – because, you know, getting sailing to mainstream audience is hard. And, you know, he knows our whole raison d'etre is to try and promote sailing. So they've put this together for the same method, he thinks, you know, promoting sailing. So it'll be interesting, but it's called, as Bicey has already said, Chasing Tokyo documentary. So if keep your eyes out for it, especially if you've got Discovery Plus. And yeah, we'll find out a bit more.
We look forward to watching this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It'll be a cracker. So yeah, that's a good one. There's one other thing that we probably have to mention, given that it's such a big deal, is that the Star Worlds, their 100th Worlds, or 100th anniversary of Stars, is actually underway now. So we mentioned it.
Has started.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. So up near Boston, we mentioned it previously, and it's happening. So if you're bored,
I like how you did that too. Up near Boston.
Boston, yeah, that's right. I'm so mad skilled with my accents now.
Yeah, you know, like you can determine which part of the USA you're in. Yeah.
God, we're a pair of wankers, aren't we?
High five.
Oh dear. What else, mate? Anything else going on?
Nah, that's it, my friend.
Oh,
hello.
You know how you pushed my car down into the river?
Your Mazda.
Yeah, I've recovered it, mate. But I've got the new rooftop tent. I was waiting. I waited 3 months, and the supplier couldn't supply. So I said, I'll take my money back, thanks. And now I have my tent. Going to go and put it up straight after this. This is the goal.
The Darchie, is it?
No, I ended up getting
Darchie
one.
brand?
What did I get? I got. I don't remember the name of the brand. What is it? It's.
Is it one of those ones like at one end it's much higher?
No, I ended up
because that will be required for the noggin.
I did think about that. I thought if I get one of those angle ones, I can't put my head down that end.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I thought actually my feet wouldn't fit either. Right, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then so I ended up getting one where the whole thing just pops straight up. It's kind of cool. It's cool. It's really good actually. It's got and it's got.
I look forward to it blowing off the top of your car and tipping it over.
Anyway, so camping adventures, mate. We can take each other on. One day it'll be me broken down. Yeah.
Nice, mate.
All right.
Love your work.
Good show.
Farewell, my friend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Have a ton of fun. Reach out. Let us know what you're thinking at cheers@barkarati.com. And, go in peace. Good luck at everyone at the World Championships. You know what the Star Worlds didn't think to do?
Get Bar Karate to broadcast live.
Still way I can see